official lines, even former Gamtel customers whose lines are both faulty and dormant. For more information, call the marketing department or visit any of our Gamtel sales offices. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
In the headlines tonight, government and the International Development Association seal a $35 million financing agreement targeting the information communication technology sector. The two-year United Nations Democracy Fund pilot project designed to ensure effective female participation in the country's democratic and political processes takes off. Residents of coastal states in Central America put in place last-minute damage mitigation measures as Tropical Storm Emily prepares to unleash its wrath. And American politicians stave off a U.S. debt default by raising the heavily indebted country's debt ceiling, ending weeks of uncertainty and bickering. These stories and much more coming ahead in the news. I'm Isa Tudabo. Thank you for joining us. The President of the National Transitional Council of Libya, Mustafa Mohammed Abdul Jalal, has written to His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh. The message states, "It gives me great pleasure to express on behalf of the Libyan people and the National Transitional Council our deep gratitude for your decision to break diplomatic ties with Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and for recognizing the National Transitional Council as the legitimate representative of the Libyan people. It made the Gambia the first African country to recognize the Transitional Council, and the Libyan people will never forget that. The people of Libya came out on the 17th February 2011 to show their anger by staging peaceful demonstrations demanding freedom and justice, which is their right in accordance with international law. Unfortunately, the Gaddafi regime refused to respond to their demands or hold negotiations to find a political and economic solution to the crisis. It chose instead to use military power, surrounded and destroyed cities and killed tens of thousands of Libyan civilians. The move, which goes against international humanitarian law, robbed Gaddafi of his legitimate authority. Gaddafi must be removed from power as quickly as possible to protect the lives of the Libyan people. We wish to extend to Your Excellency our appreciation and sincere greetings for rejecting the suppression and killing of the Libyan people. Please accept, Your Excellency, the assurances of my highest consideration and esteem." It ends. Malik Cham Chare, an employee of the Assets Management and Recovery Corporation, has felicitated the President on the 17th anniversary of the July 22nd revolution. Cham enumerated the gains made by the revolution, recounted how the Gambia was like before the epoch-making event, and singled out the rural electrification project, which he said has enabled residents of towns and villages access electricity supply. Cham concluded by praying to Allah to continue guiding and protecting President Jammeh. The founder and board of Scholar Athlete for Change today called on the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs to thank the government for the support rendered to the body during its recent youth camp. Aissatou Badian Sarr was at State House and she reports Ajah Dr. Aissatou Njai Seydi later presented certificates to families and individuals who supported the organizers of the late J.M. Seydi Memorial Nawetan Tournament in Janjanbureh Central River Region.
In what was a series of engagements at the State House, the Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs first granted audience to the founder and board of the Scholar Athlete for Change. Per Jaro, who was accompanied by some members of his organization, was there to show their appreciation to the Gambia government through the Vice President for the support they received during their just-ended youth camp. According to the members, the initiative, which has been going on for 3 years now, is meant to revive some sporting disciplines which used to be vibrant but now dormant. The camp, which targets young children from the age of 5, is also meant to get young school-going children off the streets during their holidays and engage them in both sporting and academic activities. They commended the Gambia government for not only creating the enabling environment, but for also giving the organization its fullest support throughout the 4-day camp. The Vice President also received in her office members of the Janjanbureh Youth Development Association and various donors of the late J.M. Seydi Memorial Nawatan held in the Central River region. The Vice President, as the main sponsor of the football tournament held in honor of her late husband, presented $12,000 to the organizers. The Gambia Football Association also presented 14 footballs and 2 sets of jerseys, while the Chief of Defense Staff, Gambia Armed Forces, also presented a set of jerseys to the organizers for the hosting of this year's tournament. The President of the Gambia Football Association, Sidi Kinte, commended the Vice President for the initiative and for investing in sport, which he said will not only unite the youth but also help strengthen their efforts in developing the sporting discipline. Saini Kamara, Saidi Sise and Alpha Khan all could not stop heaping praises on the woman whom they described as somebody worthy of emulation. They also described the late J. Seydi, former husband to the Vice President, as a virtuous and honest man who toiled to unite people during his days on earth. For her part, the Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs, Dr. Aissatou Njie Seydi, applauded the organizers of the football tournament, donors and well-wishers for contributing to the success of the Memorial Football Tournament. She, however, urged them to always ensure that discipline, unity and development remain the bedrock of the tournament. In a separate development, Madam Njie Seydi also granted audience to a group of young people who called themselves the ambassadors of disaster risk reduction. The group's visit to the country's number 2 was to seek her blessing and approval. According to members, the youth group seeks to work with the National Disaster Management Agency to serve as an advocate of disaster risk reduction at the grassroots level, targeting students and young people in general. The Vice President, Executive Director of the NDMA, and the Executive Secretary of the National Youth Council all commended the youth group for their move and urged them to first register with the National Youth Council to ensure that they are recognized and to avail them the opportunity to tap available resources in executing their mandate. Aissatou Bajansar, GRTS.
The island town of Janjanbureh has been hit by double tragedy. The centenarian and oldest resident of the historic island town, Ajah Danjang Sanyang, who was recently featured by GRTS in the program Kacha, has died. The community is also mourning Moro Jata, an APRC constituency chairman. Babkar Kamara accompanied the high-powered delegation dispatched by the president to the funeral of the two, and he now reports.
Not new into the historical limelight when first been featured on the opera soup Kacha, hosted by Alhaji Keba Diba of the Gambia Radio and Television Services.
Bari ñen dankuto fenko sano ya kumatal den na balwo kono.
Soko turo ni sanya ngoti.
Akuliata.
Ba soko sanya ngoni turo. Dai.
Akuliata. Pelembe kacha kumfala ja ya jamene ko lafta tella de ko
nga lafta tella. Alindiala.
Ibe kumo murundi le kan. Ibe muna fala e bi ya jamene. Tumano ni na sita bi te. Ale.
Mba fala ko mba sumbula sinya tannan. Ala ko be.
Her untimely demise happens to coincide with that of Alhaji Moro Jata, APRC constituency chairman whose sudden death occurred from an accident. Ajah Dandang Sanyang is said to be the oldest woman living in the sprawling island of Janjanbureh, and her life, as attested by the various speakers, was a simple one that served humanity for the past 7 decades. In a rather somber tune, mourners as well as the high-powered delegation, headed by Honorable Jato Silla on behalf of President Jammeh, paid their condolences to the bereaved family of Sanyang and Jata respectively, praying for the deceased and mourning their absence as one absolutely defined by God. On their part, the Director General of the Gambia Radio and Television Services, Alhaji Mamadou Sanyang, Deputy Minister for Petroleum, Tenemba Jaite, and Governor for Central River Region, Ganyu Toure respectively, prayed for the deceased, adding their indispensable role to serve their people have been manifested by the number of people traveling far and near to honor their last respect to the deceased. For his humanitarian benevolence, President Jammeh, through the delegation traveling on his behalf, gave a colossal sum of money to the bereaved families of Sanyang and Jata respectively, with the latter dominating the lion's share. The Jata family was advised by the delegation to put the money into good use, adding the late Alhaji Moro Jata left 3 wives and a young family, yet to gain the required support they should benefit from their late father and husband.
Allahu Akbar.
The remains of Ajah Dandang Sanyang and Alhaji Moro Jata were later led to